lecture, we were talking about seed, right? In this class also, we will continue with seed only. So, we will know some facts about the seed. Do you know what is study of seeds called? The study of seeds is called spermology. Since I am telling this is one short destination for your NEET examinations, beyond this you need not study a single sentence also. All the points which will be there in your syllabus will be covered to the core up to the NEET standards. Okay. So, we will study little extra about seed, which will help us to enhance our knowledge more, because seed comes in this chapter also. Seed comes in the chapter morphology of flowering plants also, right? Study of seed is called spermology. Let me write down seed first, since this is our topic today. So, study of seeds, what is it called? Excuse me. Study of seeds, it is called spermology. Gymnosperms, angiosperms are the group of plants where seeds are made. That is why gymnosperms and angiosperms together are called as spermatophytes, because seed producing plant study is called spermology. We can write that gymnosperms and angiosperms. Gymnosperms and angiosperms together are called as spermatophytes. Together are called spermatophytes. Why are they called spermatophytes? Because they are seed producing plants. Since they are seed producing plants, they are called excuse me, spermatophytes. Now, in the previous class, I asked you to find out and tell me a plant or a fruit which is having many seeds and a plant or a fruit which is having very less seeds. Now, come on, think and tell. Mango. Mango fruit has one seed or many seeds. Mango fruit has only one seed, right? So, there are some fruits. There are some fruits like mango. So, means one fruit has only one seed. Whereas, there are some more fruits. There are some more fruits like papaya we eat, watermelon we eat. Now, what is this type of fruit? Here, one fruit has many seeds, you know. This is what I asked in the previous lecture. I asked you to find out and tell me a fruit which has only one seed and a fruit which has many seeds. The answer is papaya, watermelon comes under many seed producing plants, and mango comes under one seed producing fruit. Now, if we go with an orchid fruit, it contains thousands of seeds. In papaya and watermelon still there are hundreds, we can count them. But if we take an orchid fruit contains thousands of tiny seeds. Let us write on that. Orchid fruit. What does it contain? It contains thousands of tiny seeds, small seeds it contains. And there are some parasitic plants also. NCERT says that there are some parasitic plants called Orobac and Striga. Now, for this Orobac and Striga fruits also, one fruit contains thousands of seeds. So, NCERT says that some parasitic plants. There are some parasitic plants. What are the examples? Orobac and Striga. These are parasitic plants, means they grow on top of the host plant for nutrition. The Orobac and Striga fruits, if you see, the fruit also contains thousands of seeds like orchid. The fruit contains thousands of seeds. These are the examples for the fruits where seeds are enormous, seeds are numerous. Understood? Now, I told today's class is about seed and fruit. Now, if I ask you what is the smallest seed and what is the largest seed, the smallest seed is that where thousands of seeds are accommodated in one fruit, right? Orchid. The smallest seed is found in orchid. So our next point is smallest seed is found in, come on, where is it found? It is found in orchid fruit. And if we have to talk about largest seed or largest fruit also, it is double coconut. It is Lodosia. If we go with largest seed or largest fruit, if you see, it is double coconut is found in. Commonly we call the plant as double coconut, okay? Lodosia maldivica. So what is the name of the plant? The name of the plant is Lodosia. It is L-O-D-O-I. Not V is not there. L-O-D-O-I-C-A. Lodosia maldivica is a plant, or it has a fruit which has biggest seed, which has biggest fruit. Understood? So these are some facts. What did we discuss so far about the seeds? Tell me. Study of seeds is called spermology. That is why gymnosperms and angiosperms, they are kept under a group called spermatophytes. Now, some fruits like mango has only one seed, whereas some other fruits like orchid has thousands of seeds. Orobac and striga, which are parasitic plants, even their fruit contains thousands of seeds. Now, coming to the smallest seed, the same, orchid fruit contains smallest seed. Coming to the biggest seed or the biggest fruit, double coconut, it is Lodosia maldivica is an example for the largest seed. Take a screenshot, we will continue. Right? Now, there are some numerical questions based on how many, for production of these many seeds, how many meiotic divisions are required, they will ask, right? So, we will discuss that. I'll tell you a formula which you can apply to get the answer soon, right? So, competitive examination is all about accuracy and all about how do you save your time, and you can work out more with physics and chemistry, which are tougher subjects, okay? So, now if we have to see, there's a question, for example, number of meiotic divisions required to produce 100 wheat grains. Children, this is the question. Number of meiotic divisions required to produce 100 wheat grains. I told you, I'll tell you a formula which can save our time. The formula is 5x by 4. This is the formula. X is the number of meiotic divisions. What is X, children? It is the number of meiotic divisions. X is the number of meiotic, they're asking us to find out the meiotic divisions. So, X is the number of seeds. Yeah, X is the number of seeds. They gave you 100 wheat grains, right? So, apply that value here. So, X is number of seeds here. So, then if I write down, substitute that X here, 100 divided by 4. 5 into 100, 500 divided by 4. I'll get 125, right? So, 125, we are calculating meiotic divisions, right? Meiotic divisions. How many meiotic divisions are required? 125 meiotic divisions are required to produce 100 wheat grains. Now, if we have to see the solution in detail, this is the formula through which we got the answer directly. If we have to see the solution, I will tell you, we need to talk about microsporogenesis and megasporogenesis. We need to talk about microsporogenesis and megasporogenesis. Microsporogenesis is the process of producing pollen grains. Megasporogenesis is the process of producing megaspore and next embryo sac. Now, we know that this is stamen. Stamen contains microsporangium. Now, this microsporangium contains microspore mother cells. Now the microspore mother cells will undergo meiotic division. One microspore mother cell, after undergoing meiotic division, it will make a microspore tetrad. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a tetrad. So one microspore mother cell, after meiotic division, it will make 4 pollen grains. It will make 4 pollen grains. You need how many pollen grains? We need 100 pollen grains, right? We need 100 pollen grains which will fuse with the 100 eggs. So one division, if it is giving 4 pollen grains, means check 25 divisions. 25 into 4, no? 25 into 4, you will get 100 pollen grains. One division giving 4. So 25 into 4, 100. So 25 divisions are required to get 100 pollen grains. 25 divisions are required to get 100 pollen grains. Now coming to megasporogenesis. In megasporogenesis, we tell that, right, from one megaspore mother cell, 4 megaspores are formed. 4 megaspores are formed, out of which 3 will degenerate. We studied that. So this is degenerating, this is degenerating, this is degenerating. Only one is functional. Only one megaspore is functional, 3 got degenerated. That's not the case here. All 4 are functional here. Since there are 3 degenerated, so only one will be there. One will make 1 embryo sac. One embryo sac contains 1 egg. This will develop into embryo sac. In that, 1 egg is there. What is egg, children? Egg is female gamete. Egg is female gamete. In the pollen grain, we have male gamete. In the pollen grain, we have male gamete. Now, if 100 pollen grains are coming, you need 100 eggs to fertilize to get 100 zygotes and 100 embryos, right? So now, I told one division will make 4, 3 will degenerate, only 1 functional. Only 1 is functional. That means, I am telling that for 100 pollen grains, you need 100 eggs. For 100 male gametes, you need 100 female gametes eggs. That means 100 divisions you need to do, because 3 are degenerating. So, can I write here? 100 meiotic divisions. 100 meiotic divisions will produce 100 eggs. So, 100 divisions here, Amma, 25 divisions here. So, 25 plus this 100 will give you 125 divisions. See, after doing this much, you are getting the same thing. But if you apply the formula, straight away we are getting the number of meiotic divisions. Understood? So like this, there are some formulas through which we can calculate and we can reach the answer soon and we can save our time. Understood? What is the formula? If they are asking you the number of meiotic divisions required to produce those many grains or those many embryos. Embryo or grain means zygote. Zygote means formed by the fusion of male and female gametes. Then we have I have detailedly explained here. So, one pollen mother cell or microspore mother cell after meiotic division will produce 4 pollen grains. Means 25 divisions will make 100 pollen grains. But here, since 3 are degenerating, 25 divisions will not be sufficient. 100 divisions we need to make. So, 100 plus 25, 125 is the answer. Take a screenshot. We will continue. Right. Now, we will know some more facts about seed. I think all of us eat lychee, right? And we use castor oil also. And you have seen castor seed also, I believe. Now, in lychee, what is edible part? Come on, tell me. And we make cotton fiber, we make cotton fabric, right? So, from where do we get that cotton linen? So, all this we will see now. So, seed outgrowths is the next topic. Seed outgrowths. So, our next topic is seed outgrowths. Now, let us talk about the first type, which is called as aril. What is this? Where is it found? It is the third integument. Actually, ovule will have only 2 integuments. What is ovule, children? Megasporangium. This is the ovule, right, which is present. So this is ovule which is present inside the ovary. This is present inside the ovary, stigma, style and ovary. Now, how many integuments did I draw? This is the inner integument and this is the outer integument. This is the stalk which is called funicle, and this end where integuments are absent is called micropyle. So this is the stalk of the ovule which is called funicle, inner integument, outer integument and micropyle. Now what this only, right, this ovule only after fertilization turns into seed. Now what is aril means? It is a type of third integument which develops from this funicle. So come on, tell me, what is aril? It is a type of third integument. Actually ovule is having 1 and 2 integuments only. From where is this third integument coming? From the funicle. Then what is it named as? Inner integument in the seed, it becomes tegmen, tegma. Outer integument is called testa. Now if the third integument comes, what name do you give? Aril. Now come on, tell me, what is aril? It is a type of third integument develops from funicle. It is developing from funicle. What are the examples we find aril means? I already told you, lychee. What we eat in lychee is aril only, and asphodylus also. Other examples are, one is lychee and asphodylus, right? So the edible part of lychee is aril only. Shall I write here? The edible part of lychee, what is it? What we eat is aril only. Okay, now let's go to second type of outgrowth. Can I rub this off? So keep in your mind what is outer integument, what is inner integument, what is funicle and what is micropyle. Now there is one more thing which is called arylode. What is the next one called? It is called arylode. Now what is arylode? It develops from the tip of the outer integument. From the tip of the outer integument it develops, but it completely covers the ovule. Entire ovule it will surround. Then that is called as arylode. What is arylode? We will write it again. Arylode means it develops from the tip of the outer integument. From one tip of outer integument it develops, but it completely surrounds the entire ovule and surrounds the complete ovule. What is it called? Arylode. Example for arylode is Ingua dulca. So what is an example for arylode? A seed called Ingua, Ingua dulca. This is another modification. Now I will give you one more familiar thing. Caruncle, in seed we have seen, in NCERT also some type of seeds. Caruncle is there. So that shall we discuss? Caruncle. What is this then? What is caruncle? It is also the outgrowth of outer integument. This is third integument only, one complete integument only. This one develops from the tip of the outer integument. Now caruncle, it's an outgrowth of the outer integument, and from where it will come, it is outgrowth the third integument. It covers the micropyle and there it's bifurcated. Let me write it down. Caruncle, what is it? It is outgrowth. It is outgrowth of outer integument and it covers micropyle. It covers micropyle and forms a swollen bifurcated structure. It forms a swollen bifurcated structure. If you remember, so we draw it like this. This is a castor seed, this is a cotyledon, and this is endosperm, and here we draw the caruncle. Now, this is micropyle. From the micropyle, a swollen projection in the castor seed, which is an outgrowth. What is this? This is testa, outer coat. The outer coat only projected out and it made a spongy, cushiony tissue which is covering the micropyle. This part is called as caruncle. This caruncle, it is made up of sugary content. So, what is caruncle made up of, ma? Caruncle is made of sugary content. Sugar is there. Since sugar is there, solute is there, the seed absorbs water easily in osmosis, right? When solute is more, water comes easily inside. So, when water comes in, it helps in germination. So, that caruncle helps in seed germination also, and ants will disperse them to new places. Since ants want sugar, there the sugar content is there. So, ants helps in seed dispersal because of the caruncle. You might have seen the pictures. Ants will carry with their mouth the caruncle and they will take it. So, if ants are dispersing the seeds, what is that called? That is called myrmecochory. If the ants are doing pollination, myrmecophily. If ants are carrying the seeds, it's called myrmecochory. I'll write it down. Caruncle, it is an outgrowth of the outer integument. It covers the micropyle. It is a projected region and it is a swollen part. It is made up of sugar content. Now, this sugar content will do two functions. It helps to absorb water. It helps to absorb water and helps in seed germination. Seeds can germinate because water can be absorbed easily because of the sugar content. Second point, I told ants carry that because ants like sugar, the sugar is there. So, helps in seed dispersal by ants. What is this mechanism called? I told it is called myrmecochory. Myrmecochory means dispersal by ants. Myrmecophily means pollination by ants. What is the other term? Myrmecophily. Myrmecophily is pollination by ants. Myrmecochory means dispersal of the seed by ants. Understood? So, what did we discuss on the board? We discussed three types of seed outgrowths. The first type of seed outgrowth is aril, found in lychee and asphodilus. What is it? It is the third integument. Second one is arylode. Arylode, it's an outgrowth of the outer integument, but it completely covers the ovule. The third one is caruncle. What is caruncle? It is also the outgrowth of outer integument only. It will swell up and it will cover the micropyle. It is sugary content. Take a screenshot. We have one or two more. We will discuss that outgrowths of seed also. Yeah, understood, Amma? Wish to listen from you. How are the classes? You can post them in the comment box. Any requirements? Let me know, children. Or you are happy with the content? So that also you can text it, right? So it will be an interaction, right? So three types we have already seen. The fourth type, let us write. Coma. What is this structure called coma? It is an unicellular filament-like structures which come from the testa. If you have seen a cotton seed, this is the cotton seed. outer coat of cotton seed, that is testa, and you know it's completely covered with filaments, which we call as, these are cotton hairs. This is what we use in fabric making. So what am I drawing? So these are unicellular filament like structures. These are unicellular filament like outgrowths of the seed coat. Okay, it is called as coma. It is used in fabric making. So what should I write? They are unicellular filament like outgrowths of the testa, outer seed coat. And example, gossypium. Gossypium means cotton. So do you know that what we are making, the cotton fabric is made from the seed coat. Seed coat hair is used to make the cotton fabric. So, and what is that cotton fiber called? It is called as coma. Okay, so can I write down the example here is gossypium, cotton. Okay, now next we will see. So the next one is sarcotesta. What is the fifth type of one? Sarcotesta. If at all the outer integument is thick and it is fleshy, then that is called as sarcotesta. The outer integument becomes succulent, then that is called sarcotesta. Let me write down the outer integument becomes succulent, means fleshy, then that is called sarcotesta. Example, magnolia, apocarpus condition, there we studied. Example for sarcotesta is magnolia. All this is about the outgrowths. So in the previous board we have seen study of seeds is called spermology. Gymnosperms, angiosperms comes under spermatophytes. Some fruits have one seed each, some fruits have thousands of seeds. The smallest seed we have seen, the biggest seed we have seen. How to calculate the meiotic divisions formula also I told you. Then outgrowths of the seed we have seen. One is eril, second one is erylode, third one is caruncle, fourth one is coma, fifth one is sarcotesta we have seen. Now let us also talk about the types of seed germination. Yeah, can I do that? The next topic is types of seed germination. Now we can go with three types of seed germination. One type of seed germination is called as apigeal germination. The second one is called as hypogeal germination, and the third one is called as vivipary. Let us see in detail what is apigeal germination, what is hypogeal germination. Now if we see a seed, here is the seed. Now after completing its dormancy, it starts germinating. When the seed starts germinating, if the hypocotyle grows fast and if it makes radicle, if the hypocotyle is growing first, epicotyle did not appear still, and if it is making the root system fast, since it is growing more, this part is pushed up. That means the cotyledons will come above the soil. Because of more growth of the hypocotyle, the cotyledons will come above the soil, and this is epicotyle. Only this much is epicotyle, this much is hypocotyle. So epicotyle is small, but hypocotyle is big. Hypocotyle is big, because of which the cotyledons are pushed out. Because of which you can see the cotyledons are above the soil. The cotyledons are pushed out. Now after that what happens? Cotyledons come out. by the time root system has shown extensive growth and the first leaves will come. After the first leaves come, the cotyledons will fall off, wither off. This is called apigeal germination. So what should we write in apigeal germination? The cotyledons are brought up, right? The cotyledons are, shall I write here? The cotyledons are above the soil. The cotyledons are above the soil due to more growth of hypocotyl. Due to more elongation of what? Hypocotyl is growing more. Is called as apigeal germination. Now we need to see the examples also. The examples of apigeal germination are castor is an example. Bean is an example. Shall I write the examples here, ma? One is castor. The other one is bean. Third one is sunflower. Castor, bean, sunflower, onion, mustard also we can take. Yeah, I'll go up. Onion, mustard. So, all these are examples of apigeal germination. Now, the same concept, the same picture is there in 11th standard plant growth and development chapter. Same picture is given and they told it is apigeal germination of bean. They can ask us because bean is mentioned. So, bean is very important example since it is mentioned in NCERT. Bean is an example of apigeal germination. Castor is also an example of apigeal germination. Sunflower, onion, cucurbita, these are also examples of apigeal germination. Now, can we go to hypogeal germination? Now, in hypogeal germination, again I will take the diagram. The seed. After completing the dormancy, here the hypocotyl and radical growth started first, but there the epicotyl growth will start first. Can you see? The epicotyl growth is starting first. Root growth did not start yet. Then what happens? If the epicotyl growth started first, then the hypocotyl growth will start next. By the time the root has established this much, the hypocotyl will grow very nicely and it will make its own leaves. So, are the cotyledons rising above the soil or they are very much within the soil here? Check here. Here though they are above the soil, but here they are below the soil. Then that is called hypogeal germination. So, we can tell in hypogeal germination, the cotyledons remain underground only due to the elongation of epicotyl. Can I write down here? In hypogeal germination, the cotyledons remain in soil itself. The cotyledons will remain in soil itself due to, why? It is due to elongation of more epicotyl, due to more elongation of epicotyl. Okay, now with the pictures also you can understand. This is hypogeal germination. Now we need to take the examples also for apigeal germination. Most of the monocots exhibit hypogeal germination. Shall I write down here examples? Most of the monocots with some dicots. Most of the monocots show hypogeal germination with some dicots like gram, pea, vinca, mango. Some dicots like mango, amma, pea, vinca rosea. Vinca rosea we can take. Mango, pea, vinca rosea and gram are examples of hypogeal germination. The last one coming to vivipary. Have you seen mangrove areas, waterlogged areas. Now there the soil is logged with water till this level. When the soil is logged with water till this level, then there is no capillarity, oxygen will not be there. So oxygen is very much required for seed germination. When the plant drops the seeds also, the seeds fail to germinate because oxygen is not there in the soil, since it is a waterlogged soil. Then the plant will make an idea, if I drop the seed down, so the seed will not germinate. So I will germinate it on the top when it is with me itself, when it is there in the fruit itself, it will germinate, and the seedling, the germinated seedling will drop down, it can establish easily. That is called vivipary. So here I told the seed after completing dormancy, it starts growing. Here also I told the seed after completing dormancy, it will grow. But in vivipary, there is no concept of seed dormancy. In vivipary, no seed dormancy is seen. In vivipary, no seed dormancy is seen, and the seed germinates when it is on the mother plant itself. The seed germinates when it is still within the fruit and within the plant. Where do we find vivipary? We find in mangrove plants like Rhizophora. Where do you find vivipary? We find this in mangrove plants or saline area plants. The examples are, one is Rhizophora, I am writing it here. Avicennia is another example. Rhizophora avicennia exhibits vivipary, means the seed germinates when it is there on the plant itself. Hypogel germination, the cotyledons are inside the soil only. Why? Because epicotyl growth happened fast. Epigel germination, the cotyledons are pushed above. So because of hypocotyl development more. So these are the examples of epigel germination. These are the examples of hypogel germination. This is about vivipary. Hope you understood. Take a screenshot. We will continue. So, all this is about seed. Now, can I go to fruit now? Can I go to fruit now? Yes? Good. Study of seed is called spermology. We came to know. Now, any one of you, can you tell me what is study of fruit called? What is study of fruit called? That is your assignment. You are going to post me in the comment box. In the next lecture, of course, I will disclose what is study of fruit called. Now, till then, you work out, find out and tell me what is study of fruit called. Study of seed, I wrote here. It is called spermology. Now, our topic is, we are going to discuss about fruits. Right? Right. What is a fruit? Fruit, formation of fruit and seed, they are the end product of sexual reproduction, we will tell, right? Fruits and seeds are the end products of sexual reproduction in flowering plants, children. This point is there in NCERT in the first page starting of the chapter. Fruit and seed are the end products of sexual reproduction. Now, a fruit is nothing but the fertilized ovary. So, after fertilization, changes into fruit. Yeah, it changes into fruit. Okay, we understood. Ovary, stigma style ovary, a part of gynoecium, after fertilization converts into fruit. Ovary wall is also there. Ovary wall will turn into fruit wall, which is called as pericarp. When the ovary becomes fruit, then immediately the ovary wall transforms. It transforms into fruit wall. Ovary wall will become fruit wall. Children, the fruit wall is called pericarp. It is called pericarp. If the pericarp is fleshy, and if we can differentiate into outer epicarp, middle mesocarp, inner endocarp, then such type of fruits are called fleshy fruits. If pericarp is fleshy and differentiated, if it is differentiated into, outer epicarp, middle mesocarp, inner endocarp. If it is differentiated into epicarp, mesocarp, endocarp, so call the fruits as fleshy fruits. Then such fruits are called, what are they called? Fleshy fruits. Examples of fleshy fruits: mango, then coconut is an example, tomato, brinjal, chili are the examples. So examples as many as possible we can write: mango, chili, coconut, brinjal, tomato. All these are examples of fleshy fruits. Then what is dry fruit? If the pericarp is dry, cannot be differentiated into epi, meso, endo, then that is called dry fruit. Let me write down. If pericarp is dry and not differentiated, if it is not differentiated into 3 layers, call it as dry fruit, amma. If it is not differentiated into 3 layers, call it as dry fruit. Examples of dry fruits are groundnut is an example, cashew nut is an example. So groundnut, mustard, NCERT gives mustard and groundnuts as examples of dry fruits. Okay, now we told that fruit is a product of fertilization. Ovary after fertilization changes into fruit. There are some fruits which are developed without fertilization also. Then what are they called? If the fruit is developed with fertilization, that's a common way. If the fruit is developed without fertilization, such fruits are called parthenocarpic fruits. Okay, shall I write down? Fruit formation without fertilization. If the fruit is formed without fertilization, the process is parthenocarpy and the fruits are parthenocarpic fruits. If the fruit is formed without fertilization, then the seeds will not be formed, right? That means parthenocarpic fruits are seedless fruits. So, parthenocarpic fruits are seedless fruits. Parthenocarpic fruits are seedless fruits. When we are eating orange, seeds will come and they'll irritate us. Okay. So when you're making a juice also, you need to take a strainer to remove that seeds and all, lime juice and all. Now we prefer taking seedless varieties, seedless grapes, seedless oranges. So parthenocarpy nowadays became very much used. Parthenocarpy can be induced, you know. It can be induced by applying hormones like auxins and gibberellins. On the flower, if we apply auxin and gibberellin, then they will become seedless fruits. Without fertilization itself, the fruit will be formed. So, parthenocarpy can be induced by applying plant growth hormones like auxins and gibberellins. Can be induced by applying plant growth hormones What are the plant growth hormones? Like auxins and gibberellins, gibberellic acid. Not high concentrations, only in low concentrations. High concentrations have reverse effects. Okay, so parthenocarpic fruits are called seedless fruits. Example for parthenocarpy is banana. It's a natural parthenocarpic fruit. Softly people will eat banana. So for small children who don't have teeth, when they are feeding the child till 6 months, they feed banana because they can easily swallow. Small child will not have teeth because teeth erupts after 6 months only. Banana is a rich in nutrients. Banana is a parthenocarpic fruit. Seedless grape, seedless orange, all these are examples of parthenocarpic fruits. What did I tell? Seedless grapes, navel orange. These are examples of parthenocarpic fruits. Now we start with fruits. Let's have a quick recap. I gave you homework to find out, text me what is study of fruits called. Okay. Now fruits and seeds are the end products of sexual reproduction. Ovary after fertilization will become fruit. The ovary wall will become fruit wall and it is called pericarp. If the pericarp is differentiated into epicarp, mesocarp, endocarp, then that is called fleshy fruit. If the pericarp is not differentiated, it's dry fruit. Now, if the fruit is formed after fertilization, it's a normal phenomenon. If the fruit is formed without fertilization, it's called parthenocarpic fruit. Example, banana. And nowadays in industry, juice industry, we have machines to strain and remove the seeds and all. If you produce parthenocarpic grapes without seeds, parthenocarpic orange without seeds, so you are saving the time for industry to extract the juice. So it is used nowadays. Take a screenshot. We will talk about the other types of fruits. Right? Now, when we are eating a fruit, what are you eating? Ovary, right? And what happens to other parts of the flower after fertilization? Other parts will fall down. But sometimes the other parts also contribute to fruit formation. Then what are they called? In fruits, if the edible part is ovary, what you are eating, if it is ovary, okay, it is a fertilized fruit only, na? So it is a fertilized fruit only. It is a fertilized fruit only. And if the edible part is ovary, then what is it called? It's called true fruit. Then it is called true fruit, right? So what are the examples of true fruit? Mango and coconut are examples of true fruit. Now, what is false fruit then? In false fruit, ovary is not edible. The other parts of the fruit are edible except ovary. So in false fruits, the edible part is not the ovary. This is also fertilized fruit. It is not a parthenocarpic fruit. Fertilization happened. Ovary turned into fruit. But the edible part is not the ovary. Then that is called false fruit. Example for false fruit, take strawberry, apple, cashew. These are the examples. Strawberry is one example. Apple, another example. Cashew nut. These are the examples which they have given in NCERT. In strawberry, if we see, so this are the sepals. Strawberry comes under an achene type of fruit, right? So what we eat is this part. in strawberry, what we eat is this part, right? What is this? It is thalamus. So in strawberry, the edible part is thalamus. This only swelled up and it grew into a juicy succulent structure. So this is thalamus, and what is this? A quine, a type of fruit it is. Okay, so here thalamus is edible, so of course it's not a true fruit, it's a false fruit. Then now let us see cashew nut also. In cashew nut, have you seen such a type of structure, right? So of course we eat this cashew, which is a seed, cotyledons we eat. So we eat this also, which is juicy, succulent. So this is also thalamus only. What is this? Thalamus we eat. And seed coat, you break it off, you burn it off, and fruit. This is the fruit, which is hard. We burn it, we break it, and we eat the cotyledons and we eat the thalamus. Then it is false fruit. Now let's see apple also quickly. This is apple. Okay, in apple, so you know what is this? Seed. Seed is enclosed by, you know what is this? This is papery fruit. We nicely take a knife and we remove the fruit and we throw off the fruit, and what we eat is all this part. What is this? Thalamus. So in all these three what I have given, thalamus, what is this? This is apple, and this is strawberry, and this is cashew nut. In all these three, what we are eating are the thalamus, not the ovary or the fruit. So that's why we call them as false fruits. So we covered in detail about seed and fruit. Parthenocarpic fruits, false fruits, fleshy fruits, dry fruits. Your homework is, tell me what is study of fruits called. In the next lecture, we'll try to finish off the last topic called apomixis and polyembryony. Hope the information is informative. If you like the content, like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.